Hi, I'm Dr. Mark Studin, and together with ChiroSecure, we're going to bring you some cutting edge information about what's going on in the industry with respect to referrals, something that's near and dear to our heart. But not just referrals now, but going into next year in 2025, because things have changed. It's no longer the same. It's just no longer the same. So let's start pulling up some slides and sit chit chatting about what you need to understand. Who is your competition? And that's the key. You got to understand what the competition's about. You got to understand what you need to do. And I'm going to give you a spoiler alert. The main competition is yourself. Now, there's corporate medicine, which brings chiropractic in. There's orthos, neuros, neurosurgeons, pain management. They all want your referrals now. They all want them. So you've got to be prepared. You've absolutely got to be prepared in what you're doing, what you're looking for, and you have to understand the big picture. Now, I called up a doctor, his name is Jim in New Jersey, and he's in practice about 40 years. And I said to him, actually 35 years, I said, if you had an opportunity to speak to the entire profession right now, what would be the message you would give them? And he says, it's easy. The message is one of clinical excellence. Be the best of the best through clinical excellence. I says, but that means something different to everyone. For some people, it might be the best adjuster. It might be the best philosopher in our profession, being the most connected to BJ, or having an incredible acumen in sports taping, or functional medicine. Everyone's got a different definition. He says, well, I could tell you one thing, that I've been in the game a long time and I've been practicing a long time. And I struggled mightily. I worked as a cash practice, heavily steeped in philosophy. I was in a pain practice and took care of patients till that pain then threw them out. I was involved in sports with teams and local athletes and amateur athletes. I've been involved with it all. But since I've taken on a different posture, life has become so much more fun. Practice is more fun. It's more profitable. I said, what do you mean by that? He says, well, frankly, Mark, it's everything you've been teaching through the years, and I'm just a good listener, and I'm just doing what you're telling me. And here's what it is. I know the difference between myelomalacia, myelopathy, and chordedema. I know the difference between a herniated, bulge, protruded, extruded, and fragmented disc. I know that nerves grow in with disc degeneration, which is also called bulging. I know how to interpret MRIs. I know how to understand ligament laxity, but more importantly, how to get a biomechanical analysis off of an X-ray that's based. And by the way, everything he said I know is based upon the evidence in the literature. Nothing is out in left field, and that's really important. He said, as soon as I started knowing all of that stuff, everything became easy. So I take every single course I could find that's going to teach me more about spine. He said, I didn't even know how a chiropractic spinal adjustment worked. He said, I knew there was bone on nerve, but I always thought it was on the nerve root, which we know now doesn't exist. It's on the facets, and the nerve is the nociceptors. And the other nerves is the Pacinian corpuscles, which are your crimp receptors, your Ruffini corpuscles, which are your streptoreceptors. Your Golgi tendon apparatus in there feeding into the lateral horn, which branches off into the spinal, into the deep paraspinal muscles, and to the positive ion tracts, which go back into from the deep paraspinal muscles, which are your proprioceptors, which go back into the spinal cord, which go up through the spinal thalamic tract, through the periaqueductal area, gray area, hits the thalamus, ping pongs around, then goes efferently back down to disparate areas. I now understand that and don't adjust someone in their lumbar spine if they have lumbar pain blindly. I want to see if that's the primary lesion. I have the tools for that now. And it took me a lot of learning to do. He said, but you know what? I still had to take CE courses for my license, so I just took better ones. And I've gotten credentialed. And he said, it took me 30 years, but in the last 3 or 4 years, actually it's about 5 years he's with me, I've doubled the size of my office physically. I'm doubling it again. I'm doubling my hours. I'm bringing associates in. It's spiraling upwards. He says, I've tried it all. I've tried every gimmick, every game in the world. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. So let me give you an example of what that means. I could tell you now that the Academy of Chiropractic, this little icon right here, has gotten 1,989,787 additional referrals into chiropractic practices. It's easy. That equates to 15 to 25 new cases, mostly personal injury, because I like getting paid more rather than less, and I love trauma care. But here's what it looks like. So we did a study with someone from, uh, not me, and then someone else, and then me. Easy. So here's the bio for this person who's not me. Dr. Jane Smith graduated from Northeastern Life, New York, LA chiropractic. Oh, this is underground. I'm sorry, the picture's over that you can't see. Dr. Jane Smith graduated from Northern College and went on to obtain the chiropractic degree from Life Chiropractic College. Dr. Smith has been active on committees through the MAC, the Michigan Association of Chiropractic, or you could put anything in there that you'd like. Now, here's my credentials. Dr. Mark Studin graduated from St. Peter's College and obtained his chiropractic degree from New York Chiropractic College. Dr. Studin's currently an adjunct associate professor at the University of Bridgeport School of Chiropractic and an adjunct professor at Cleveland University, Kansas City College of Chiropractic. And I'm now no longer, I got to change this, I'm not a clinical instructor. I'm an adjunct associate professor, adjunct assistant professor of clinical sciences at the State University of New York, Jacobs School of Medicine and Biomedical Sciences, Division of Family Medicine. Dr. Studin obtained his fellowship in primary spine care through the State University of New York at Buffalo and his trauma, MRI interpretation, hospital primary spine care documentation, diagnosis, on and on and on and on. So if someone was referring to this Jane Smith on 1 Main Street in any town USA, and I was on 2 Main Street, who more likely than not would get the referral? Well, it's real easy. It's weighted towards the left, the person with better credentials. Now, where did I learn this from? And I think I've chatted about this before. Actually, I know I have, but I'm going to say it again. My wife, let's see, 20 years ago. Okay, it's not, 16 years ago. She was diagnosed with cancer for the first time. She had cancer 3 times. It was 16 years ago. It was a 5-year battle, and she's doing great. She had kidney cancer, and she's doing really well. And she's 100% clean, and I'm so blessed and thrilled and happy, etc. But it was hell. And in finding the right urologist, which is a surgical doctor, a surgeon who operates on kidneys for cancer, I went, and we live in New York, so I went from Boston to New York to Philly to Washington. And if you can't find the right doctor in that corridor, you're in trouble. And I spoke to almost every highly qualified urologist in that corridor, and I found the right one. First, I found his credentials online, and he went to Washington University at Columbia Presbyterian. He's involved in kidney cancer research and this, that, and the other. I mean, that was why I chose him. And going through the process, and by the way, when I went to make an appointment, they said, oh, well, you can have an appointment in 6 months with him. I said, 6 months, you'll be dead. You crazy? He says, no, you don't understand. This doctor is very busy. He gets patients who come to him from Africa, Asia, South America. I mean, you name it, they come all over the place. He's only got 2 hands. And then I had to play the game. Who do I know? Well, do I know any nurses, surgeons, chairman of departments? This was in Columbia Presbyterian Hospital in New York City, and now he's in UC Irvine in California, which is where we went for her last surgery. But I had to play the game. I went to senators. I went to congressmen. I went to assemblymen. This is my wife's life on the line, and I got her an appointment in 3 weeks. Guys turned out to be a prince, a jewel. I still have a relationship with him, and he saved her life. But during that 5-year process, I said, why don't people run after chiropractors the way I'm running after that surgeon? Why? So, and it really amounts to the bio on the right versus the bio on the left. What makes us special? We're all chiropractors. A lot of us have diplomates. Well, I'm not denigrating diplomates, but diplomates really are an inherent or a chiropractic-centric level of academics. Most other professions do not have diplomates. There's fellowships, there's being board certified, and there's certification, advanced qualifications. So we went out and did a whole lot of things to create. And we looked at different programs out there. And I also reached to the State University of New York at Buffalo School of Medicine and Biomedical Sciences. I reached out there and said, can a chiropractor get credentialed through you? And the answer was yes. And it took 10 years, by the way. And now courses are co-credentialed for all of these qualifications. And if you want to get qualified, and unfortunately my picture is over the QR code, but if you want to get qualified in any one of these things and you want to give yourself the competitive edge, it's a no-brainer, folks. It's a no-brainer. You can do that. Anyone can do that. If you want to make yourself competitive and create a scenario where other chiropractors are irrelevant, and that's the key. You need to make your competition irrelevant. Just like 1 Main Street and 2 Main Street. Folks, I have every one of these qualifications, and so do a lot of doctors now. They have all of them, and they become a fellow in primary spine care. They're making you irrelevant, but it gets worse than that. Orthos, neuros, neurosurgeons, and pain management all want your referrals, all of them. It gets even worse than that. And this is not about doom and gloom because you have a pathway up. Corporate medicine is bringing chiropractic in, and they're winning. And they're winning, just like you see corporate dentists on almost every block in major cities where medical primary care doctors have gone hospital or corporate. We're seeing that all over the country. It's our turn. They're now coming for us, and they're going to get us, by the way. One way or the other, they're getting us. And if you resist, which is fine, I wouldn't join, by the way. But I'm sharing with you that you need something to have that competitive edge. Because you know who they're reaching out to? They're reaching out to my trained doctors who already have these qualifications to grab you. And we just moved my picture out. If you want to take any of these academics, just take a snapshot of your cell phone. Just take a snapshot. You can look at this. It's all here. And it just works. This is what it looks like, folks. This is Tim Weir holding his fellowship in primary spine care with SUNY Buffalo Medical School and Cleveland University on there. And that's Tim Fellowship in Primary Spine Care. Know what it looks like? Here's Tim's 2 years average. Tim, by the way, let's see, 2024, 4 years ago, Tim was earning minimum wage. And he's happy to share that with anybody. And he tried every game in the world. He got credentialed. He averages 70 new cases a month. He's 100% personal injury. He turns away 23 new cases a month because he doesn't like the lawyer or the MD. He's got financial freedom. And by the way, you know why he only gets 70 new cases a month? Because he's tired. He said, I could double that if I choose. And that's an average over the last 2 years. But you see what's behind him? All of these diplomas. Every time you take a course, with me at least, you're getting diplomas to frame on your wall. For every time you get CE credits, you're getting a frameable diploma, discussing what those credits are about. Now, when patients walk in, guess what they see? Clinical excellence. That's what it looks like. When lawyers walk in, they see clinical excellence. When medical doctors walk in, they see clinical excellence. And this is what Tim's CV looks like, clinical excellence. And the signature line on his email, and all the press releases that he sends out. That's what every chiropractor should look like. That is our only way to spiral upwards, folks, through a posture of clinical excellence. This works. That's Tim's fellowship in primary spine care. You want to know what it looks like with lawyers? Once you learn how to do all the things you need to do to get just some of these things, not all of them, just some, certainly when you get there, lawyers are getting settlements with no herniations of 760% increase in settlement. They're getting settlements with herniations, 1,247%. And verdicts are going up 2,840%. Why would a lawyer want to meet with you? There's why. But they have to be able to work with you. It's more than just the numbers. The other thing is you have to get into the lawyer's office, and you need to be teaching them. You have to educate the attorney. Because if they're not educated, they're not going to know what to do with their client or with you. So what we do is we give you an opportunity to go in and be their instructor, whether it be virtually or physically. So you need to be their strategy. You need to be the reason they win. And I've been doing this for 10 years. So I went out and wrote 3 books. First was 2014. I've been doing it for 10 years. The first one is evidence-based demonstrative evidence of bodily injury from trauma. The second is serious, and that's 114 chapters. Serious bodily injury, the evidence, that's another 100 chapters. And low-speed accident injuries and causality, diffusing deceptive rhetoric. So I've written 3 books. And if you want to get them, go to lulu.com and put my last name in Studin, and you can find all the books you want. Lulu.com, search word Studin, it's all there. But this is what you need to continually get into a lawyer's office. This is about referrals. They have to have confidence in you. So, and each one is a standalone page, a chapter, with a reference explaining about seatbelts, about trauma, about crashes, about herniated discs, about ligament damage. It's all here. You'll never want for anything with an attorney. And they'll want to meet with you. And now you have a reason to go back into their office over and over and over and over to educate them. Because you could do 1 chapter a month and going continually. It's a hell of a strategy. We've been doing it for 10 years successfully. 10 years since we wrote the first book. It works unbelievably well. But you see, with medical doctors, it's a little different. The root of the problem is non-specific back pain. Oh, it's not an anatomical problem. It's a biomechanical problem. So if there's no fracture, tumor, infection, or herniation, they just throw drugs at it. And you cannot have a pharmaceutical solution for a mechanical problem. You can't throw drugs at a mechanical problem. You won't fix it. And it's dogma to them. It's like a religion. Oh my God, just give them drugs, send them to a PT. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. How do we know that? Because it's not working. Here's what happens. And by the way, I love physical therapy. I really do. And I own offices with physical therapists in them, and we work great together. But here's the problem. The problem is orthos, neuros, neurosurgeons, and primaries send the patient to the PT first. If the patient is seeing to the PT first, opioid use increases by 80% in 90% of the patients. Opioid use increases. There is no opioid reduction if a manipulation is used. And by the way, you have to stop manipulating your patient. It's not a philosophical issue. A manipulation is an arthrokinematic glide through the joint. We deliver a high velocity, low amplitude thrust. And as a result, our outcomes are 86% better than physical therapists as a result of that. But spinal injections go up by 32%. If one modality and 2 modalities, it's 53%, and every PT uses more than 1 modality. Heat, exercise, mobilization, rehab, whatever, they all do. So it goes up by 53%. MD specialty care, 27%. And if 2 modalities are used with PT, up to 50%. Specialty care includes surgery. And it's not my opinion. All this research was done by physical therapists. I didn't do it. And it's out of the VA. So then if we look at chiropractic outcomes, opioid use decreases by 55%, where theirs goes up in 90% of the patients. Opioid use, 56% in an older population. Prescriptions decrease 54% within a year. Cost decrease 74%. Secondary disability compared to PT, chiropractic lowered to 313%. Primary disability, 239%. And all of the studies that I'm sharing with you have a cohort of 4,000 to 6,000 people. It's not a study of 50 people or 100 people. It's 4,000 to 6,000, except that last one. According to Natadon, 96% of patients have a high level of satisfaction with chiropractic care. And the cohort was a 4-year study, 8,034,000 people. 8 million. 96% got better and reported it as such. There is an inequity here. And by the way, if you want the research citations for anything I share with you, go to the U.S. Chiropractic Directory and go to the research page. It's all there. It's all there. By the way, the U.S. Chiropractic Directory's research page is probably the most visited site in our industry. There's almost 23 million hits. We're just a few shy. Everything you want is there. But if you want at your fingertips to work with MDs, I've written 3 more books, The Science of Chiropractic, volumes 1, 2, and 3. Everything I share with you is in there. Go to lulu.com. You know who I give this to? I give this to MDs. This is my stocking stuffer. When we talk about these statistics, all of these statistics, I have a book, I paper clip it, I say, here's the article, read it. Read it yourself. Read it. You should have this in your library. You should have this to hand out as gifts. And by the way, this is a stocking stuffer. This is what we give them for the holidays. You want to learn how to help your patients better, especially with attorneys, all those books, it works really well. So there are tools out there for you to use. There's good tools. Now, the other thing you need to do is if you want referrals, you've got to compete. One of the things that corporate medicine and chiropractic is doing, corporate medicine is hiring chiropractors, and it's working, by the way, because their goal is to get surgeries and pain management. It's working. They're bringing us in by droves and replacing mid-levels with us. And it doesn't cost them anything. It's a profit center. And they're getting a lot more, especially the docs I train. But here's the thing. And I showed you a stat before where I helped their settlements with herniations go up by 1,240% versus an ortho-neurosurgeon. And I tell them, you're getting the same ortho-neurosurgeon, just not first. But here's what, and they'll love it, and when I'm with them, they'll send me. But it's top of mind consciousness. So in their EMR, in their practice management system, which includes EMR and billing and collections, they've got an automated system. Every time a patient gets an eval or a re-eval from an ortho-neurosurgeon pain management or even the chiro in the corporate practice, their software automatically e-faxes it. The doctor, the staff doesn't have to do anything. It's all set up. Their software is a decade ahead of us. It's a decade ahead of us. It's automatically sent. You have to compete with it. You have to hire people to do those things and make sure it's HIPAA compliant. That's another issue. Their patients have portals to make appointments, just like you do in hospitals. Hospitals have something called Epic, EPIC. That's the name of their software, and it's taken hundreds of millions to develop that. And it's not an inexpensive proposition for a doctor to bring this in, but they're bringing it in. All the corporates are bringing it in. Patients make their own appointment in their portal, but patients also get access to their records, and that's important. So the patients give their access to their attorneys or their MDs, so they can have access if they want as well. But you can have it automatically sent to the MDs and lawyers. In the patient portal, it automatically prompts them, automatically, to go in the portal and write something nice to send to social media. But it has a filtering ability, and now you get to choose what gets posted on social media. That's automatically included in their software. I mean, I could go on for about an hour about what's automatically included. One last thing, there are guardrails for collections and compliance so that you don't get audited, you don't get sued, and you do get paid. Most of their payments are about 98% in the medical world. Most who use this advanced software. They've got AI that talks to the insurance company's AI to ensure your claims go in clean and come out clean. With a one click, your note automatically gets sent, but your note has guardrails. So I've created something called EMR Chiro. It's right here. And in that EMR Chiro, which is this QR code, you can take a picture, it's got all of those things. And it's price competitive with anything in our industry. Our industry has never seen anything like this. So the purpose of doing this was to help you compete so that in 2025, you're not yesterday's news. You need to build your credentials, folks. You really do. You need to get smarter on spine. It'll work in your practice. You need to have better technology. It all works. Folks, listen, I want to thank you so much for spending this 30 minutes with me. And I am truly, truly, truly humbled by what ChiroSecure has done in being able to bring this message to the public on a repetitive basis and so many other messages. So listen, I look forward to catching you next time. Thank you and have a great day.